In the latest edition of our review series, we undertake a thorough exploration of Iain M. popular culture series 9th edition, the novel Surface Detail. This book, published in 2010, arrived on the literary stage a mere 2 years after its predecessor, Matter, and thus forms an integral and central part of the final third of the culture series. With a hefty page count of 627, Surface Detail takes the mantle of the longest narrative within the culture series, and it certainly makes good use of it. But as usual, let us first quickly run through the various semi-objective figures of merit that define Surface Detail. In terms of its scientific soundness and overall score on the Sci-Fi Mo scale, Surface Detail can be placed firmly on the soft side of the scale, since the plot is full with technological and scientific marvels that define the culture. Iain M. world building and the scale of his literary universe are probably at the pinnacle of what the culture series has to offer with the novel Surface Detail. We experience various new civilizations, locations, both in reality as well as virtually, and can delve deeper into the intricate relationship dynamics of these various societies. Unsurprisingly, the amount of original, unique and intriguing ideas and concepts is also at the very top of the scale, even for culture standards, at least if you ask me. The Dramatis Personae of Surface Detail is noticeably longer, with 6 point of view characters and a slew of supporting and side characters. Thus, Surface Detail's roster of characters reaches the dimensions that we can experience in book series such as Kim Stanley Robinson's Mars Trilogy, or potentially even Peter F. Hamilton's space operas. In terms of critical reception, Surface Detail was in total nominated for 5 awards, namely the Locus Award for Best Science Fiction Novel in 2011, the Kurd-Laßwitz-Preis für Bestes Ausländisches Werk or Best Foreign Novel in 2012, the Tati Valteia Award in 2013, the Goodreads Choice Award for Science Fiction in 2010 and the Prix Jacques Chambeau de la Traduction in 2012. However, Surface Detail only won the last award of the aforementioned list, and that specific prize is actually for the translation into French by Patrick Dussolier, if we want to be specific. Moreover, the popular reception of Surface Detail at a combined score of 4.3 out of 5 stars based on thousands of Goodreads, Library Thing and Amazon reviews places this novel at the very top of the culture series, with a similar score to the Player of Games, Accession and Look to Windward. Furthermore, there are currently no obvious plans or news related to any adaptation of Surface Detail for the big screen, TV or streaming services. In contrast to most of the other culture books, the story told in Surface Detail contains several critical references to other novels of the series. I will refrain from spoiling them to you here though. However, this fact certainly makes Surface Detail probably one of the worst books to jump into the culture series. But to be honest, one would have to question the motives of an individual who chooses to commence a 10-book series with its 9th installment only to complain about the intricate plot and obscure references they encounter. The story of Surface Detail takes place quite far in the future, roughly in the year 2970 AD, which was actually confirmed and specified by Iain M. in this case, something that he seldom did with the other culture novels. The narrative sets off with a virtual war game that has been running for several decades, the so-called War in Heaven. This war is not mere entertainment for the bored citizens of various post-scarcity civilizations, but its outcome will once and for all settle the question whether societies are allowed to run artificial hells, virtual afterlives in which the mind states of the dead, who have been deemed sinners during their actual lives by their respective societies, are essentially tortured. While the culture takes a fierce anti-hell stance, it decided to not be an active part of the War in Heaven. Nonetheless, it will accept the outcome of the war as binding. The 6 protagonists, whose lives intersect in various ways throughout the story, are all part, and in some cases even instrumental, in the ultimate resolution of the war in heaven. For instance, there is Gjorni Vatøy, a soldier who has fought his way up the ranks of the war game to a position where he can determine policy. Then there are the two Pavulians, Prin and Shay, whose society up to now relies on the threat of hell to control the behavior of their population. While still alive, these two enter the Pavulian hell on a mission to reveal the existence and the gruesome details of this hell to the general population, even if this endeavor will bring them to the breaking point of their own sanity. Then there are Joyla Theppas, the richest industrialist of the Said-Schultian enablement, and the Detched Ibrek, one of his chattel slaves and frequent victim of abuse by Theppas. While these different narratives unfold, in the background lurks the culture, which despite of its proclaimed neutrality still uses clandestine operations and secret deals to influence the outcome of War in Heaven, which was originally supposed to be contained in virtual reality, but which now threatens to spill over into real life, with all the devastating and dire consequences such an escalation would entail. As you can see from the summary of the plot, Surface Detail manages to weave quite distinct storylines into one coherent narrative, using different point-of-view characters. This is not the first time that Iain M. Banks has employed multiple perspectives and larger rosters of characters in his culture novels. Accession or Meta would come to mind as other examples. But in my view, Surface Detail is probably the book where Banks has reached an even higher level of quality in this regard. Then there is the question who would come up with the idea that there might be societies out there that will institute virtual hells as a way to discipline their populations. I have to be honest here, this is likely one of the single concepts of the entire Culture series that took me by surprise and certainly piqued my curiosity. Although I should also add that Iain M. Banks pulls no punches when it comes to the gory, gruesome and violent description of this virtual hell, and that he uses his creativity to paint, with his words, a hellish landscape a la Hieronymus Bosch. Another noteworthy aspect is the concept of virtual war as a means to contain and resolve this fundamental conflict between the various technologically and scientifically advanced post-scarcity civilizations, as well as the risk of escalation beyond the confines of virtual reality. Overall, Surface Detail is one of the highlights of the Culture series, with unique concepts, a captivating plot, a varied cast of interesting characters, and it also poses thought-provoking questions related to the universality of ethics and morals, as well as how, if at all, these can be enforced. To top it off, there are also a couple of Easter eggs and revelations that will appeal specifically to those who have carefully read through the previous novels. What more could you want from a book? If you liked this video, you may also enjoy the other reviews and content on my channel. Feel free to leave a comment if you want to discuss the novels or if you want to suggest other books that I should review in the future. Please consider upvoting and subscribing, it is much appreciated. Thank you for watching and until next time.